Witnesses, fearing that it was a threat to shoot the neighbor, called 911. Kirchner appealed his disorderly conduct conviction, but the state Supreme Court is now upholding it, saying the gesture risked provoking a dangerous altercation. Gary Baumgarten, Fox News.
He's locked up in Chicago on sexual misconduct charges.
I believe I can fly.
Grammy winner R. Kelly not going anywhere. He's being held in solitary. His attorney calling that cruel and unusual punishment. I'm Jane Metzler, and this is Fox News.
Mescla Chamorro Fusion Bistro brings you island hospitality with a true taste of modern Chamorro cuisine. A bistro look that feels like home. Their menu features local and traditional flavors with a twist. From their famous Kelaguen Hoffa to fresh ahi poke salad and their award-winning barbecue ribs. Mescla takes your favorite local dishes and serves them with extra flair that you'll only find at Mescla Chamorro Fusion Bistro. Stop by their newest location in the Grand Plaza Hotel in Tumon. For reservations, call 969-2652. Mescla, a true taste of Guam.
Are you ready for some football? The Ray Gibson Show has got your NFL fix every Friday on Sports with Blake. Be a part of the action by going to yahoo.com's Fantasy Sports Pro Football Pick'em. Join League 3384 with the password Ray Gibson. Choose your team name and get your game on. Winners get a chance to win some awesome prizes that get you through the NFL season. The NFL Picks on the Ray Gibson Show is brought to you by Current Guam.
Talk Tales with Bob Klitzkie is brought to you by Bank Pacific, banking on the Pacific for 65 years.
Welcome to Tall Tales with Bob Klitzkie, the only show on talk radio where common sense is a lot more common. Phone lines are now open at 888-TALK. That's 888-8255. And now, The Point proudly brings you Tall Tales with Senator Bob Klitzkie. And now, sitting in for the vacationing Bob Klitzkie, here's Daryl Taggarty.
A well-regulated militia being necessary to the security of a free state. The right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. Good afternoon and welcome to Tall Tales for Friday, August 30th. 2019. I'm Daryl Taggarty, sitting in for Bob Klitzkie, who is off island. He'll be back in 38 days, back in this chair. That's the countdown. We're down to 38 days, and we will have, of course, coming up in by next Tuesday when I'm back, it'll be down into the mid-30s. So yeah, it's calendar days. We've got some interesting news to discuss today, and some interesting goings on before we head into our 3-day weekend. Traffic is already really stacking up out there on the streets. Seems like everyone's excited to get on with our 3-day weekend. And of course on Monday, we'll see about just what kind of a response we get on the call for a march to finally have the Native inhabitant vote on self-determination. So let's just kind of keep our eyes on that. But in the meantime, we don't have anything for a Second Amendment today, but we will just get straight on to Zama'i Katni. There we are. Well, we've got two items of local import. The Guam Daily News is saying, how much longer? GovGuam must hire chief medical examiner soon. And the Guam Daily Post says nearly $1 billion GovGuam budget almost had nothing to fix hospital's roof. Let's hold the Post editorial for a second, and we'll start on with the PDN editorial. Not for any particular reason, maybe because it'll be discussed a bit longer. And so let's do that. The editorial reads from the Guam Daily News today. Now that the only qualified applicant for the chief medical examiner position rescinded his application, it's imperative that elected officials take steps to get the job filled. Guam has been without a chief medical examiner since February, when Dr. Aurelio Espinola, 79, retired. The unfilled position has led to delays in post-mortem examinations and funeral services for grieving families. It also delays crime-related autopsies, jeopardizing police investigations and the criminal prosecution. GovGuam contracted outside doctors to conduct post-mortem exams. Dr. Philip Dauderman, a pathologist based on Saipan, flies out to Guam every 2 weeks to do autopsies and exams. 344 cases since Espinola retired. There's also a contract with 2 forensic pathologists based in Hawaii who perform autopsies for homicides. The lack of any real sense of urgency by the Commission on Post-Mortem Examinations and our elected officials to fill the chief medical examiner position has been disappointing and disturbing. The Commission has had a wealth of time to find a replacement, but dragged its feet, at least the months when it actually bothered to meet. Now it says it's working on a new job announcement on the National Association of Medical Examiners website. Much more has to be done to get a chief medical examiner hired. There's a shrinking pool of forensic pathologists in the United States, which local officials say makes it difficult to hire a new chief medical examiner. And local law requires that the chief medical examiner must be a forensic pathologist, not just a coroner or a pathologist, which further limits the pool of applicants. One possible solution is to increase the salary and benefits of the job to make it more attractive to potential candidates. The last GovGuam job announcement put the starting salary at $200,000. The American Medical Association says a forensic pathologist can make $255,891 to $346,132 a year. It's also possible that Governor Lou Leon Guerrero could declare a state of emergency given the length of time Guam has been without a chief medical examiner. The bottom line is that Guam is in desperate need of a new chief medical examiner, and elected officials must work to rectify that quickly. I'm going to, there's a couple of solutions that are suggested here. And they are pointing to elected officials to act to fill the position. But elected officials are not the ones hiring. They may be the ones who are setting the top limit on the compensation, which would, of course, make any applicant looking for the job simply pass over the Guam advertisement as not being competitive on the basis of salary alone. You know, it's not like somebody who's coming out here to, you know, for his or her full-time occupation and responsibility. You know, looking at the deceased and making sure that whatever he's observing is going to be relevant in a forensic sense for going into court and testifying on cases. It's you know, it may not be attractive that we're out here in the tropics. It doesn't matter whether you're living in, you know, Nome, Alaska, if that's a full-time job you have. Unless it's somebody who really, really wants to live in, you know, in the tropics and can live well. It might be that, you know, something else in the job description. It may be that there's no assistant. It may be that the facilities are not up to standard. If they are, then it's a selling point. We have a complete new facility with all the latest and greatest, and you have an assistant who's a coroner, you know, another qualified person to take the non-forensic jobs, or can just oversee, you know, supervise the work of a junior. But I don't know how that is structured, but neither does PDN apparently. And then suggesting, so it may be that the job needs to be changed, and that should be done however it would be done, whether at the legislature or at the by the governor. It doesn't seem like it's a hospital position where the hospital board can just go ahead and make the change. Something in the back of my mind tells me that it's a different office, but it seems that it should not take an editorial to move them. It's a good thing that the editorial is in the paper. Don't get me wrong, but it's showing what kind of inaction there is and lack of movement on a routine matter. This is a routine matter. This is not something that just surprised us like a typhoon. This has been known for a long time. And if it's going to take like an emergency declaration for something that's been existing since Dr. Espinola announced that he was trying to retire, and I don't know how many years ago that was. And then he finally did retire. He says, I'm tired of waiting for you guys to get your act together. I'm gone. And, it's not an emergency. It's simply dropping the ball. It's somebody going home at 5 o'clock and not having finished the thing on his desk and coming back on Monday morning and going, what was it I was supposed to do? And it gets buried under a pile of something else that's much more important. That's not an emergency. That's management. So I am happy that PDN carried this out, carried this through, but I don't appreciate the reference to maybe the governor can declare an emergency. When all she really needs to do is put on her steel-toed boot and get down on somebody. She's got people who can do that, who wear steel-toe boots. You send one of them down. Pick up the phone and say, can we do this before 5 o'clock, guys? Especially since I just gave you a raise. Or, whatever it takes. I don't know what the hook is on the people who are in. But it just seems to be that actually, they should be better informed. The people who wrote the editorial should be better informed about what where the touch point is. Where's the holdup here? Anyway, so there it is. The editorial from the Pacific Daily News. Thank you for not reprinting one from USA Today. I'm very happy to see that. Guam Daily Post says nearly $1 billion in GovGuam budget almost had nothing to fix hospital's roof. And besides that, it's a really awkward title. Let's get right onto it. On Tuesday, days into the legislature's discussion of Guam's nearly $1 billion budget for the 2020 fiscal year, the very pressing matter of how to pay to fix Guam Memorial Hospital's chronically leaky roof finally came up. Senator Therese Chalahi, the legislature's Health Committee chairwoman, proposed the hospital receive an extra $10 million in fiscal 2020. Chalahi suggested the money should be used to complete at least one of GMH's top 3 capital improvement projects. GMH has outlined capital improvements worth $57 million. The top 3 priorities. The first one, a new electronic health records system. 2, electrical panel replacement. And 3, structural roof repair. The electronic health record system is estimated to cost $21.8 million. The electrical panel, $6 million, and structural roof repair, $5 million. These projects have been looming for years and are critical mandates raised by the Centers for Medicare and Medicaid Services, Chalahi's office has stated in a press release. It makes sense to fix the roof and electrical panel first, so we hope this $10 million amendment, which has stayed intact as of Tuesday evening, will not be stricken by the time the budget arrives at Governor Lou Leon Guerrero's desk to be signed into law. The sight of GMH's staff guiding patients by the arm as they walk through slippery corridors where mops and buckets and posted caution signs are a common sight during rainy days do not inspire confidence in residents worried about its state of disrepair affecting the health care and safety of patients and employees. The leaky roof problem also doesn't help GMH convince inspectors from the U.S. Centers for Medicare and Medicaid Services who have popped in unannounced to see how GMH is holding up and how it is addressing its lingering problems, which the hospital hasn't been able to address because of a lack of funding. The top budget decision makers in the government of Guam know full well that CMS has been monitoring GMH to see if the hospital's facilities are improved to provide a safe environment for patients and hospital employees. Down the road, if CMS sees this problem did not get taken care of, millions of dollars in federal funds for the hospital could be withheld. The hospital, financially ailing as it is, could go into a tailspin without the federal funds. In addition to the $10 million for facilities repair and technology upgrade, the budget bill appropriates $28 million to the public hospital. GMH usually gets $30 million in a year in subsidy from GovGuam's general fund, but that money primarily will be used to keep the hospital running by paying vendors, doctors, nurses, and other staff. But it won't be enough to repair and upgrade the hospital's flagging infrastructure. We hope the roof repair funding will become law this time, and we also hope GMH will move quickly to use the money as it's intended. That's the editorial from the Guam Daily Post. I want to read something to you. This is the Post story from yesterday. Okay, and I'm going to read pieces of this and remember what the editorial just said. The $10 million would come from excess fiscal 2019 income tax and business privilege tax revenues. 2019. Okay, yesterday I was saying this. Okay, that is where the money would come from. And then, let's see, EHR, New Electronic Health Records System. Okay. A recent visit by representatives from the Centers for Medicaid and Medicare Services occurred when rains were seeping through walls and into corridors. Okay, first off, when will they know that there are excess revenues in income and business privilege taxes? Is that going to be in October? I was thinking yesterday that it's going to be a year from now, but no, it's going to be over the next couple of months. So they've appropriated excess revenues, excess to the estimate from last year, excess to all of the other appropriated purposes that you could pay out of income tax and business tax revenues from that pot of money that have already been obligated to places like, UOG, DOE, Public Works for buses, or, or even salaries. Gosh, wasn't there, like in 2019, wasn't there an increase in salaries that happened early on, and they've been paying those out for 8 months? So I'm just trying to think through this. How is it that we would end up with excess revenues to be deposited in a newly created hospital capital improvement fund, according to a press release? This wasn't something that was discussed in March when it wasn't raining. Now, how long have we known that the roof was leaking over at GMH? Since the last time CMMS was here, right? The roof was leaking. They didn't have an electronic hospital record system. And you know what that electronic hospital record system is for, right? Because they're still using the old system from back in, how long ago? And you can't have a new system just built by somebody, building an app locally. You got to have something that's going to be secure so that people can't hack in and get medical records on your favorite political opponent because that they've got a file up there. Or that they're sharing from the hospital to a doctor's clinic or the other way around. You need to get the electronic records from another place where a patient was, but you don't have a secure system to receive. And so you can't participate in the sharing of electronic format medical records. Also, just think of whether that's going to assist in collections and accurate billings. So why would they want to drag their feet on something like that? Oh, it's going to cost so much. And now I get that part. Oh, the roof. Oh, yeah, it was leaking when it was raining, but it's dry season now, so we're okay. We're good. They haven't had to talk about that for the last 6 months. If there was excess revenues, we would know it. Unless they're expecting some big bubble of excess revenue from income and business privilege tax to happen this month and last month. So it'll be reported next month. Do we think so? Are we expecting that? Are we expecting some kind of are we tracking, 10% above? Was there a big uptick in employment and compensation? Yeah, there was in senior ranks of political staff. But I don't think it's going to be enough to push the revenues up. And so, it's not even a systematic way of addressing the hospital. It's like, if we get this money, it'll be deposited over here, and then when we get the money, when we amass it, then we'll give it to you and you can go out and repair the roof. In the meantime, it's rainy season. And we have a call on line 1. Welcome to Tall Tales, line 1. Got something to say?
How are you doing?
I'm doing good. How about yourself?
Not bad.
Well, you better get it all in because, it's Friday already, and I only have 2 hours here, and then it's going to be 3 days.
That's good. Make sure you enjoy it, all right?
Oh, man. I'm going to go for a bike ride.
Okay, good, because it's going to be a good weather all weekend.
Oh, at least the hospital roof won't leak.
Yeah, that's right. But anyway, doesn't it bother you, though, that they have this excess revenue from the income and BPT? Does that mean that they could have gotten away with that 4% instead of raising it to 5%? And the main reason why they want to raise it to 5% is because they are anticipating a $68 million revenue loss from the first Trump tax cut. So they raised it to 5%, okay? But look, now we got excess. Okay, so that means they could have left it the 4% alone. But anyway,
let's just stop calling it that. We'll call it the forever tax.
Guys, though, that we have this excess now. Now, hopefully, the hospital can get its funding to get that electrical panel replaced and get those roof leaks repaired. But the electrical panel and the roof leak and all the other necessities that the hospital need should have come from the regular budgeting that the hospital should be getting annually from dedicated funding source from the legislature to the hospital regularly. Because, this excess fund now that we have is an unexpected excess. Is what I'm saying, and I'm glad we got this unexpected excess. So does that mean that once they fix that electrical panel, they replace it, and once they fix the roof, and once the hospital is satisfied that the inspectors from mainland, the Medicaid inspectors come over?
Yes.
And they're satisfied, and that means the hospital is no longer in crisis. Does that mean that we're going to have regular annual excess because we have the 5% now that's going to stay there? They're not going to reduce it back to 4%.
No, you know what else it tells me is that if you're expecting to be off by $10 million, what does that say about the people that you've got there testifying as our own government experts who are doing the projections, who are testifying, presumably truthfully about what it is that is, where our revenues are tracking and when do we expect to get them and where they're coming from and just what our lawmakers have for resources to allocate. Now all of a sudden here it is, like the final week of a 6-month process, and you're going to pop up with Shazam! Let's create a fund where we're going to throw excess revenue. It's almost like like the whole exercise is for a press release. It doesn't have anything to do with actually, dropping some hot tar into a crack on the cement roof. There's water inside the roof. $5 million. What you going to do? You're going to jackhammer the roof and take the 4th floor out of commission and go in and treat the beams? Are you going to put an internal structure so that the spalling doesn't fall on anybody? What's $5 million going to do? And it has to be done to hospital specification for patient safety and health, fire code, and the electrical system that the water is coming through, it fried the PA system. Now I've told you that story on the air before. I was involved in getting that PA system back up, and then it went down a second time. And they called me up. I came over and looked at it, and when we did some troubleshooting, and they said, the maintenance guys there, they said, yeah, it's the 4th floor. It's got the water is in the lines, and so it's making the amplifier buzz. And so I said, well, let's just unplug the 4th floor amplifier, and at least you have PA for the 3 floors. And they said, oh no, we can't do that.
They must have had some engineers go in there, certified engineers with degrees in structural engineering. They must have gone in there. They should have, I know they have common sense at hospital.
No, didn't they?
I think they went over to DPW and asked DPW to engineer, study it.
No. Remember last week the news was they were going to get Army Corps, but they haven't done that yet.
But did they actually get Army Corps over there or not?
Well, we haven't seen that in the news, have you?
I haven't.
No, so that's still pending. Now, not to blame anybody, but why bring this up as a budget, as budget news in the last week? As if it's an afterthought, not just for the chair of health. It's an afterthought for the entire legislature. And the governor, because she's got her whole fiscal team down there, with the chairman of the Committee on Ways and Means, the one who's leading the budget discussion, and his OFB staff, and out of everybody, now they're talking about, we'll just go ahead and create a fund where we'll put excess income tax and BPT, and we're estimating that to be $10 million, and we're going to put that money into this fund that GMH can use to fix the roof. That is so contingent. It's like saying, we're gonna put this barracks in, so in case we have to bring Marines to Guam, we'll have a place to put them, or Seabees. Okay, we're gonna, maybe we're gonna let's go ahead and fix up this airfield because we might need it. It's a contingent use. It's not.
As far as the electrical panel replacement is concerned, I think they went ahead and contacted GPA and the manufacturer of that product. How much it's going to cost to buy it, and how much it's going to cost to ship it to Guam, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah.
And also they're going to have to figure out the expense of hiring an electrician to do the job. They
Yeah,
must have
yeah.
figured those out.
They did. That was done how many years? 2 years ago, 3 years ago. It was the electrical panel was, they said, oh, this thing's been in here for 40 years. But electrical panels don't change. Maybe the use of the building changed. And I know that they've eliminated a couple of wings. Remember they tore those wings down, the old wings? The original part of the old medical center of the Marianas? And they finally tore that spalling mess down. And so now there are circuits that were freed up, and they've expanded the medical examiner's area. They've expanded around the emergency room. They've done some changes to the building, and every time they do a change, the electrical plan for the building is updated. Now, every time that the contractors who are hospital construction certified to do the design and to inspect after the contractor is finished actually laying in the cement and the lines and all that. Those are done to very high specification. Nationwide hospital specs are very, very high for earthquake and fire. Because the hospital, after everything else is flat, the hospital is supposed to be standing. And so we got that. And DPW came back and said, this panel, and GPA, this panel's fine. It's not an emergency. But I think it was listed by the hospital administration. It was flagged.
A temporary fix on it, but they are planning to replace it.
But you see, this is the thing. Did they change so much of the hospital that the existing panel is now no longer in compliance with standards? Not because of electrical, but because of hospital standards. And it could be that 30% of the hospital was changed, and you can't change more than 25% without having to change your panel. And that could be. But it would not rise to the level of importance of keeping the water out, not just off the floor. People are going to slip on the floor. That's not the problem. The problem is the water getting into your electrical and into your communications, and maybe shorting out something or causing a fire or killing the power on an area where somebody's dependent on the power for life support. That's the problem, and that's up on the 4th floor. They don't have critical patients in the beds, right? But it's not like the ICU or some other place. Tom, I got to take a break here, but can you hang on, or did you want to continue, or what?
No. I'll go ahead and listen to some other people calling in.
Great, thank you very much, Tom. Good to hear from you today.
Bye.
Okay, Joe, take it away.
We understand what matters to you because at Docomo Pacific, we're a family too. With the Now Family program, mom, dad, and kids stay connected on the latest devices the whole family can enjoy. For just $155 a month, get 3 lines with 30 gigs of 4G LTE data each, and endless use of your favorite apps without affecting your monthly data bucket. Add more, get more, save more. Docomo Pacific, better together. Some conditions apply.
Hey, do you know what time the bank closes? I need to deposit my check.
You know you can do that from your phone.
I can?
With Bank of Guam's mobile app, it's easy. Just endorse the back and snap a pic to deposit it into your account. You can do this from anywhere, anytime, which means no rushing to catch the bank and no lines.
With Bank of Guam's mobile app and online banking, we're always open. Visit bankofguam.com for more information. Bank of Guam, the People's Bank. Member FDIC.
We now return to Tall Tales with Bob Klitzkie, soaring over the confusion with his superpowers of truth. Call 888-TALK. That's 888-8255. And now, sitting in for the vacationing Bob Klitzkie, here's Daryl Taggarty.
Well, we've been having some fun here with these 2 editorials, one on the chief medical examiner and the other one on some kind of a fictional fund that's going to solve problems at GMH. And I want to award a star, the blue star. Here's the pen. I want to. But I'm going to, at risk of being labeled as stingy, save my ink. And this is why. The people at the editorial boards of both Guam Daily News and the Guam Daily Post are at least as smart as me. I know them. They have a deeper library than I do. They don't have to remember as much as I do, but they should be able to refer to their own libraries to pull up relevant information to connect more dots so that the public gets a better picture, not this little tiny picture. Not just, this is just what we think about the news today, but put things in perspective. Because they have that deep library, because they've covered the story for months and years, and to not just say, we've been talking about this for years, but say, on November 18th of 2016, CMMS was out here and they said, never mind all that other stuff. Get your electronic record system up. And it doesn't cost $28 million. It only costs about, $6 million. Oh, no, but we forgot about all that. Because GMH wants to go for the Cadillac system. And then they got to send their people off island to train them, and it's going to take so long. That story already ran, but it's not referenced here. And a whole editorial in the Guam Daily Post today is built on a press release from the chair of the Committee on Health. And she's the successor to the chair on the Committee on Health that held that position for 8 years and was very knowledgeable about what was going on at the hospital. That whole, phrase about who's in bed with who, I mean, I don't care what's going on under the sheets unless we're paying for it. Unless you and I are paying for the stuff that's going on under the sheets. And then I really want to know what's going on. And that's why we have a free press. And that's what we rely on, the editorial powers of the two newspapers to come out and say. It's not the same for the electronic media. I don't have a deep library here. KUAM doesn't have a deep library. They have an electronic library. They can go back. But their stories are like 2 paragraphs, and that's it. They're not chunking documents into the file cabinets, even virtual file cabinets. They just send somebody out with a microphone and a camera and say, let's get an interview here. And that's good, I mean, I'm not knocking it. Same with PNC. But the 2 print papers have huge files on the history of this island, day to day, who said what when, on what topic. And I expect more from them. So no ink today. No ink today. Taking a look at the folks who have joined us on Facebook Live. Tom Tahaji's wishing good afternoon, everyone. And Margaret Bloss is saying, Hafaday Daryl, happy Labor Day, Tau Tau Guam. And Mike Naholoa, hey, Mike. Hello, Daryl. Have a good show. I'm stoked, and I'm happy to have you there. I thought I saw you in a picture on Facebook the other day, and it was just like, hey, Mike, how you doing? You were all dressed up in a suit and sitting at some banquet somewhere, and apparently you were doing all right. So, hey. Mike and I go way back. Kenny Williams says, too busy looking for an abortion doctor. Yeah. And that's not even for the hospital. Is that in the public interest? I know that there's a need. But is there a need to fix the roof? Or get somebody up there with a pot of hot tar? find the leak and plug it? At least until, that water's going into the metal framework of the building. And so Michael Knight, Michael Knight, he does great work on Ray Gibson's show in the mornings from 6 till 10. And he's supporting Chris Duenas these days while Ray is off island. And he says weird or word. It's either weird or word. They said, just need a new hospital. Can transfer GMH to Feds as a VA facility and get it fixed up for the veterans too. So then what would we do? We would, what was that? Somebody was suggesting, oh, maybe GRMC is for sale, you know? So why even bother having the law saying that you have to have a private hospital included? Just, you know, we got plenty of money. Just buy GRMC, right, with government money, and then transfer all the people from GMH up to GRMC. Like that's a solution. And then Michael Knight says bonus on both ends. You know, I wonder whether if we started a VA hospital here on Guam, since we started it ourselves, whether the VA would pay for it. You know, if that was remunerative, somebody like, you know, a private hospital concern would have already started one. But the VA is a pretty difficult agency, federal agency to work with. You know, they're kind of squirrely at times. You know, there is much good that is done. My dad's a recipient of a VA medical program. But even the people in the system aren't sure whether it's going to stay on the rails. And it's got to, but it doesn't always. So let's see. Jen Concepcion Delgado says hi. And she says, I'm not sure. And then I quit. Tired. Where's Severa? And then, where's my mom? You know, it's a stream of consciousness. I'm not quite sure where we're going with this, but you know, there's only so much we can say until actually the people who are being paid, like they're picking up their paychecks this afternoon, start to do. Because they're doing it in our name. We're the ones paying them. You know, we're not talking about how does Payless, you know, pay its employees and its benefits to its employees and how much parking there is and how much drainage there is. No, that's none of our business. You can either go there or you don't go there, right? But all we're talking about here on Tall Tales is where we share public facilities. The roads, the hospital, Guam EPA services, Parks and Rec services, Reverend Tax services, DPW, flooding the road. We're going to get to that. And Lee Stolley says, good show as always. Thank you. Thank you, Lee. We're trying to get this. And then Michael Knight, got to coordinate that. Yeah, we are, it is necessary for us to we elected people to represent us, and then they're the ones who are supposed to be doing the stuff that we expect them to do. To get their heads up, look at the horizon, look at the big picture, look down and see where, are we ready to move forward or not? With the government of Guam as it's currently structured and as it's currently, its cost and its effectiveness and whatnot, can we move forward? Are we ready to just go into the future? Or are we just taking care of the political careers? Oh, let's just make sure, we take care of the rank and file GovGuam employees because we got to get elected. Is that the priority here? You saw, of course, the front page of the Guam Daily Post. Students wade through sink. I mean, really. I was taking a look at that. Consider the difference in the senior management response in the story. The Miguel Berdalio, the Waterworks general manager, he knows the sewage pump facility is there, and he knows it's not leaking. He can say that. Why is he so sure? Because he sent somebody out to take a look at it and make sure. Oh, that's right there. You can see the entrance to the pump station. Oh, yes, that pump station goes down like 20 feet in the ground, but it's not being flooded because it's up a little higher and it's engineered for the terrain. The DPW deputy director has actually more experience on the job, in his job, than Miguel has at Waterworks, because he worked for a previous administration over at DPW as deputy. But apparently he's not worth his pay. He's unaware that the students were dropped off by the school bus to wade through that water. Harm and sink is a clearly defined feature on, in property and on the map. And he references it. Oh, yeah, it's harm and sink. No, harm and sink, the specific area where harm and sink is, which is like a designated spot for water runoff from the old NAS Agana, now Teason, the International Airport, and the airfield that was down there before, that runs from Kmart all the way up to Route 16. The designated rainwater runoff location is an area that is just behind Airport Road, just to the left if you're heading towards the airport. And you see the developed ways. There's actually a federal easement for the water runoff. That's harm and sink. It's 7/10 of a mile away from Rojas Street. And he's referring, oh yeah, it's harm and sink. And even the Post picks up on it. It's not harm and sink. It's just, the rainwater. There's in the story, it says a private landowner built a wall that's causing ponding on the right-of-way. Now, this is Miguel. This is Waterworks is saying, oh, yeah, there's a private landowner just built a small wall and it's making the water. So was that wall was it built in accordance with the law? Was it permitted? Should the landowner have obtained a permit before diverting the natural flow of water and causing flooding on the public right-of-way? DPW is right there in Harmon. Did anyone from DPW go over and inspect the flooding? I'm going to take a break here and we'll come back because there's actually more to be said about this, okay? In just a moment, let's go to this break, Real Joe, and we'll be back with more Tall Tales.
Hafaday, this is Congressman Nicholas. Our office is currently visiting our villages, providing contact information for our office and taking any inquiries we may be of service with. All vehicles and staff are appropriately identified for your safety. Please feel free to let our constituent outreach team know how we can be of service to you, and thank you for your kindness.
This ad was paid for with official funds from the Office of Congressman Michael F.Q. San Nicolas.
Here at APL, our core values give the company its heart and soul. Whether it's connecting your business with our global network through our newly enhanced service or investing our efforts into giving back to the community, APL is committed to serving you. We humbly honor the opportunity to find innovative solutions for you and your business. To learn more about our enhanced service, call 588-4651 or visit www.apl.com/Guam for more details.
Tall Tales with Bob Klitzkie is brought to you by Bank Pacific, banking on the Pacific for 65 years.
Now, for those of you who have been tuning into Tall Tales and to the Ray Gibson Show on the Point, we're not just here to bitch and moan. We're here to help you in the public understand what it is that's going on. It's a free press. It's the media, news media. It's community conversation that can be had electronically, and it's open, so that if there's anything that I'm saying that's wrong, somebody can just jump right in, whether you're on Facebook Live or on the telephone at 888-8255. Call up and say, I have information about this, first-hand information. Or, in my opinion, you're totally off base. Or, I work for one of these senators and working so hard, and I don't know why you're thumping on them. They're just trying so hard to keep this thing going. The government of Guam is big. It's $1 billion enterprise. Whatever it is, 888-8255. You can call. before the break, we were talking about that, the ponding that's happening on the government's own, on the public's own, on our own right-of-way. The way that it's not just the students who live in there, whose parents are renting an apartment down that street. It's the public's own right-of-way. If I want to go visit somebody there, if they have a delivery from the U.S. Post Office, or they get a delivery from, delivering furniture from Townhouse Furniture or something like that, right? It's the way that we get from one private property to another, the public right-of-way. And so who's supposed to look after this? Who's looking after the public, these kids and anyone else who needs to use that street? Is DPW waiting for the mayor to go out there and look at it and then file a report and a request? We've got a weekend here. We're not just sitting here bitching and moaning. We actually are going to propose some solutions, and I've got them right here. There are 2 remedies, under remedies in Title 20 Guam Code annotated. And this is in Section 11106. Private person injured may abate. Any person may abate a public nuisance which is specifically injurious to him by removing or, if necessary, destroying the thing which constitutes the same without committing a breach of the peace or doing unnecessary injury. So any person can go out there, and it's a public nuisance, that water built up on the road. A parent of any of those kids could go out there with a sledgehammer and bust that wall down. It's in the law. And then there's under Section 12102, abatement when allowed. A person injured by a private nuisance, so it's a private wall, may abate it by removing, or, if necessary, destroying the thing which constitutes the nuisance without committing a breach of the peace or doing unnecessary injury. So as long as you don't, as long as the owner doesn't come out with a gun and you can continue to insist on busting down the wall, without calling the police, you can take a hammer and go knock down that wall, and let the water flow, which it was doing already. And the owner of that property knew that water was going to flow that way, because he bought the low property. He probably got a good deal on it because it had water coursing through it. It's not the same as if it was perfectly flat like a piece of paper and it's on the map. No, it's the water course. And did DPW point it out in the building permit for that land? That you have to make sure that the water is able to go through and follow its natural course down to the next lower area? Or if it was a wetland, did they say, sorry, Charlie, you can't build here. You shouldn't have bought this property because it floods. And if you're going to build, you're going to have to get permits for the water injection. You're going to have to elevate your building to comply with flood zone elevations. All of that. That's DPW. And what do we get? We get Jesse Garcia saying, what did he say? What did he say? What did he say? It's telling. Jesse Garcia acknowledged the issue, saying that area near Rojas Street is part of what's called the, quote, Harmon Sink. Quote, when it rains, water from the airport down the cliff and around much of Harmon Industrial Park pools in that area, he said. Over the years, it's gotten worse as more privately owned properties are developed and land is cemented over. That's a direct quote. He added there are some properties that remain undeveloped in the area that soak up the water, which then feeds into the island's aquifer. Dude, yeah, he's like, oh yeah, I know, that area back here behind DPW, behind my office. That whole general area between DPW and the cliff. No, because Harmon Sink is down behind, as you're coming up Marine Drive, leaving the airport intersection, and you're headed north. When you go down, before you get to Brody School, it's on the right side. That's Harmon Sink. And the rest of Harmon, all the way to Route 16, drains down into that. Did they ever bother keeping the water courses clear, DPW? It's 4:59. It's almost time for the beginning of a 3-day weekend, Labor Day weekend. Stay tuned. We have more tall tales coming up after Fox News at 5 and our stunning, because it's almost football season, halftime show. And do stay tuned. We'll see you on the other side.
The Point is KUSG, Hagåtña, Guam, 93.3 FM and 104.3 HD3.
Headed for Florida and expected to strengthen. I'm Jane Metzler, Fox News. Winds holding at 105 miles per hour. Dorian, still a Category 2 hurricane. Its track taking it toward the northern Bahamas, and then
it is likely to turn from its northwestward motion to the west-northwest and head for the Florida Peninsula in a few days. We think it'll be nearing the coast, but we can't be very specific.
Richard Pash with the National Hurricane Center says the storm will make landfall on Labor Day somewhere between the Florida Keys and southern Georgia. Now, that's a 500-mile stretch of coastline by then. The storm is likely to be a Category 4 hurricane with winds estimated at 130 miles per hour. Pash says expect heavy rains.
Well, rainfall, we've been talking about potentially of 5 to 10 inches, possibly as much as 15 inches. But that depends on more on the specific track that it takes, so who's going to get that rain.
As you know, President Trump owns some pricey property along Florida's Atlantic coast, and he posted a video on Twitter.
The winds seem to be building at a tremendous rate. It looks like the winds are going to be unbelievably high.
The president saying the government is prepared to send food and water to people who may be affected. He canceled a planned visit to Poland because of the storm. Police in Hong Kong arresting 2 well-known pro-democracy activists at that city's airport Thursday night as authorities continue their crackdown on people involved in this summer's massive protests. Those protests started over a proposed law that could send Hong Kong suspects to communist mainland China for trial. Reuters reporting China rejected plans to kill that bill. America is listening to Fox News.
Hafede, this is Robert Underwood. Chamorro self-determination is the belief that the native people of Guam deserve the opportunity to express their preference for the future political status of Guam. Since the Spanish arrived and the U.S. acquired Guam in 1898, the Chamorro people have never had the chance to formally express their preference for the island's future. Supporting self-determination is something all of us who love Guam and understand its history can support. This is why I invite all of you, regardless of your background or politics, to come out on September 2nd, 8 a.m. at Adelup for Fanohgi, March for Chamorro Self-Determination. This will be a peaceful and lawful walk from Adelup to the district court. All are welcome, and it will be great for families and friends to bring signs and show their support for Chamorro self-determination. Its time has come.
Thousands of California healthcare workers plan a Labor Day protest ahead of a threatened strike.
Kaiser workers and supporters are planning to rally outside of a Kaiser facility in Hollywood on Labor Day ahead of a possible strike in October. Dave Reagan's the president of SEIU United Healthcare Workers West, which authorized a strike. Workers like patient care and clinical lab techs, medical assistants.
The CEO is making $16 million a year, and he got a 60% increase last year. And Kaiser has the audacity to say that people making $45,000 a year in Los Angeles are going to jeopardize the financial future of the company. I mean, that's how far out of touch they've gotten.
Kaiser officials say the union demands would amount to an added $1 billion in labor costs over 5 years. Jessica Rosenthal, Fox News.
A possible trend discovered among vaping illness cases in Wisconsin.
The Wisconsin Department of Health Services
Services says nearly 9 out of 10 cases where vaping led to people developing a severe lung disease involved the use of THC products such as waxes or oils. They say 89% of the 27 people they interviewed who became sick reported using e-cigarettes or other vaping products to inhale the psychoactive compound in marijuana. Secretary-designee Andrea Palm warns the cartridges that contain THC may contain chemicals or additives that are unknown, unregulated, or unsafe, and she urges people to not vape. There have been nearly 200 illnesses related to vaping in at least 22 states, according to the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention. Lisa Lacera, Fox News.
Pot, it's a lot more potent than it used to be. A warning from the Department of Health and Human Services for adolescents concerned about marijuana's impact on the still developing brain. Pregnant women also being warned. Some of them use the drug to alleviate morning sickness. Apparently, the brain development of unborn children could be affected. I'm Jane Metzler, and this is Fox News.
Hafaday, this is Congressman Nicholas. Our office is currently visiting our villages, providing contact information for our office and taking any inquiries we may be of service with. All vehicles and staff are appropriately identified for your safety. Please feel free to let our constituent outreach team know how we can be of service to you, and thank you for your kindness.
This ad was paid for with official funds from the office of Congressman Michael F.Q. San Nicolas.
This is Ronnie. Ronnie is about to break his piggy bank.
Come on, piggy bank.
Ronnie wants to upgrade his smartphone.
And this piggy's gonna help me.
If Ronnie had signed up for GTA's handset payment option, he could have selected a new smartphone with an affordable monthly plan.
I could have what?
Exactly. Sign up for HBO at GTA and don't break the bank.
I'm sorry, piggy bank.
Terms and conditions apply. GTA, we start with you.
Talk Tells with Bob Klitzkie is brought to you by Bank Pacific, banking on the Pacific for 65 years.
And on with the show, man. That is, everyone needs that stirring music, and you know, we're all together on this. Of course, we're on which side of the field, right? And we're all cheering for our team there. But welcome back to Tall Tales on this beautiful Friday afternoon. It's got to be beautiful because it's heading into a 3-day weekend, Labor Day weekend. Really, nobody has to work. But I know that the GovGuam employees are going to be having and Guam DJs are going to be having a thing down at Epau Beach on Sunday, because that's what they always do. And then on Monday will be the Whanogi March that's being organized. You've been hearing about it here. And we're going to talk about this in just a few minutes. I've got some possible sign texts I'm going to read to you. Signs, I'm not sure which one or two or three I'm going to make up for my own sign. But I'll share them with you, and I'll invite you to call up and tell me which one. What's your recommendation? Okay, so those of you who are online or you're listening on the radio, you can call at 888-8255. But before we get to that, I'm going to take a look at this Chris Barnett story from Wednesday evening. August 28th, about the Andy South walking path closing for military buildup. We'll, talk about this for a moment. A Jigo hotspot for walkers, runners, and health enthusiasts. I know Bob Klitzkie uses it. Will soon be off limits to locals thanks to the military buildup. GEO Mayor Rudy Montanani confirms the area next to the GEGO fire station will eventually be closed off to allow for the construction of a training facility for Marines being relocated to Guam. Mayor Montanani tells KUAM the military says access to the area will be closed off on September 16th for a, quote, couple weeks before being closed off to locals for good when construction on the project is completed. Montanani says he is working on alternatives, including upgrading a basketball court and walking path in the Gura 506 area. He says a plan to build a 1-mile run-walk path and a football field on GovGuam land across Anderson Air Force Base is in the early stages of development. I'm happy to hear that. You know, Mayor Rudy's got a big village, and I'm not quite sure how much government land he's got up there, but, you know, anything would be good. And you know, it's good. What's interesting is I've been seeing online there's some rather negative comments about the military closing down this walking trail, and I've been up and down that on my bike, and I've taken my wife for a stroll on that. You know, there's a whole lot of people there, but this is kind of where we should be thinking about this. Why don't we enjoy walkable communities? Why do we have to go to the military land to exercise? Could it be the streets have calm traffic, have no stray or loose dogs, and are actually paved and maintained? Trash cans are kept back away from the roadsides until pickup day? You know, you drive down your streets. Does the neighbor just leave the trash can out there? You know, the one for the pickup? Or if you have a condo or something, they just put the big dumpster right there on the side of the street for everyone to see first thing when you drive in? Is that how you know, the place is? Every community should be walkable. If streets had maintained shoulders and sidewalks, for those that have sidewalks, right, maintained. Pedestrians and cyclists of all ages using the right-of-way were acknowledged by motor vehicle operators, and animal control was enforced. We should not require residents to travel to new facilities outside their own neighborhoods like the Dededo Sports Complex or the Paseo. We shouldn't require residents to do that. Walkable communities will promote a sense of community. How novel. Even bull cart trails should be valued as native inhabitant heritage byways, developed as municipal strand parks. Where is local leadership on this for all their high salaries and staff? I remember last legislative term, the senator who was now at the Guam Airport Authority put in a bill, and I somehow I must have been too busy to notice this and see it go through. The legislature passed it, allowing owners of land adjacent to a bull cart trail to acquire the bull cart trail. It's like an undefined area, habitual use. And yes, they haven't been used because they developed roads after World War II. But these are the heritage byways. This is the way that people used to go, you know, from one area to the other on the island. And that's why the lands did not on either side of that bull cart trail did not meet. But under the American concept of survey, they were not adequately defined for the surveyors to say where the markers should go. And so they're variable width. And then, you know, it's a problem, but it's not an impossible problem. There's some places that could make very, very nice walkable trails. And just, you know, 5 feet wide. You know, not for a car to drive down, but for people to walk down and maintain it as a public walking or biking trail. Anyway, I saw that and I just had to had to get in there and do something about it, say something about it. But it's nuts. So do you want to hear these? Again, telephone number 888-8255. Call up and say what you want to say. There's a lot of people who use that walking path, and it's going to be closed. Thank goodness it was open. I've been using the Route 3A, which runs from Potts Junction out to Retidian, as a cycling path. And I ride there from the eastern side of Jigo, and then I go across and north. Go west and north up to there. But now it's all under construction, and we'll see what it looks like when they're done. And we'll see whether it's going to be something where there's less traffic, and whether it's going to be someplace it'll be real nice to go out there and ride. It may not be. It may just be an industrial road. So anyway, I'm going to give you some of the ideas I have for a sign to carry on in the Finogi March on Monday morning. Here's the first one. Let's see, how many do I have? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Okay, and maybe you can suggest some on Facebook Live. The first one is late, and then the symbol equal sign with a slash through it, which means not equal to. Never. Late is not equal to never. Okay, that's one. And the next one is, it's about dignity. Okay, so that's number 2. And number 3 is dignity and respect. Some of that is just, self-dignity, self-respect. And then the next one is people of the land expressing their preference on the future of the land. Okay, that's number 4. Number 5 is don't be afraid of democracy. And then number 6 is just another exercise of democracy. Number 7 is democracy, not colonial fiat. Now, Fiat, yes, there is an Italian car brand called Fiat, but that's not what I'm talking about. Fiat is just a decree, a declaration it's like the final word as a decree by some authority figure. Okay, so democracy, not colonial fiat. Maybe I'll put a picture of a fiat there. And the last one, number 8, of the choices I have here for possible sign wordage is, what are you afraid of? So those of you listening this afternoon in your cars on your way home, got something to think about there as you continue. I know you have a bit of a window into where my head is at on this question that's been hanging for, in my head for at least 45 years. And not that my preference has to prevail. I just want to see it, that we have a vote. Have a vote, and then let's get on to the next step. And it's not a linear thing. It's sort of a whole process. But this is one of the elements that's necessary to go through in order to have the process. We can have it now, we can have it later, but we're going to have it. So, okay. I'm taking a look here. I'm not seeing. I see myself in the Facebook, but I don't see comments, and that's okay. It means you're listening. It means you're thinking. But if you do have some comments, please share them with us, either online on Facebook or on the line, telephone line 888-8255. Let's see what else we have here. Finnegod's in danger zone. The lands off of NCS I was taking a look at this. I was asked by a listener to look into two things. Well, I think two different listeners asked me to look into two things. One, about riparian rights, and that is, what right do you have for the water that is going either through your property or past your property? What right do you have to take that water to use it and to interfere with it? It's kind of the other side of the same coin of the problem with the flooding on Rojas Street or near Rojas Street in Harmon. And what I have is there are no riparian rights on Guam, and that is established by law. It's in the law, and I've pulled it down, but I'll get into that more another time. But what I also found was the lands that were taken, that were reserved for military use after World War II by the Organic Act that separated the military lands, retention lands, from the lands that would be used, that would be subject to the laws of the legislature of Guam and the governor of Guam. They have been amended over the years as the boundaries have changed. But one of them was the offshore waters next to NCS. Now, it's a little different category from the offshore waters off Andersen Air Force Base and Ritidian Urunau. Those were specific, that the offshore waters were retained as military retention lands. They don't belong to the government of Guam. They can be closed off, as they have been in Ritidian for the, purportedly, for the protection of sea turtles. But on the Urunau side, where there's private land, inland from the high water mark, those lands, those offshore lands, are specifically retained. So going into that reef line, you're on the military reservation as much as if you you parked your car along Route 3A and walked into the jungle. Just the same. And apparently the submerged lands off the coastline of NCS, where the Finnegadson danger zone is, that was posted on the front page of PDN on Monday the 26th. We don't know. Is that a taking? Did they take that land, or they didn't want to have any comment period? But does designating that land as a danger zone for a shooting range, are they taking that land from us, or is that land that they already have? And out into the ocean, is that a taking, or does it go all the way out to the 3-mile limit? And I'm asking the question because as I'm reading it, I'm not totally confident that I understand where that boundary is. I do know that the coastline itself and the approaches to the reef there are military retention lands, national security zone. And I don't have a problem with that. I mean, who would? This is for the common defense of the United States, right? And we all were underneath that umbrella. But to go out 3 miles or 1.5 miles, 2 miles, don't know. Are they required to have compliance with other federal environmental and coastal zone management laws? You're going to throw lots of lead into the reef area. How does that square with federal environmental? Can you ever clean it up? Or coastal zone management laws? Does it become just another Vieques, where we're going to throw a whole lot of, or what's that one in Hawaii, the island Kalaeui, where the military can throw all kinds of, it used to be lead, right? Copper and lead in World War II, but now it's like spent uranium and maybe duds, like they're going to go boom, but they don't go boom, and they just kind of tumble off into the ocean, and then they're kind of laying there. Do we ever think that they're going to go out with scuba gear and pick up everything? Or is it just going to become sort of a wasteland where the environmental effects on that are going to be for the next 20,000 years because you're shooting spent uranium rounds? Because once it's built, there's no way to regulate the use of that range. I'm just asking, right? And then, that firing range is not the same as a firing range up at Northwest Field. It's for different purpose. I think it's for small arms and whatnot. But why not use the former site down by Taragi Beach? There is, off to the right, when you get down to the bottom, off to the right is a former pistol range. And it shoots out to the ocean, but it's not on the protected side of the island. So there's much less use of that offshore water. Maybe the answer is here. Oh. Tom, you got the answer for me?
I think I do. I was reading that when they had that public hearing on the final decision, right? That offshore danger zone is supposed to be only closed to fishing during the firing range is in use. And I think the way they're going to do it is they're going to have a real high pole with every time they're going to use the firing range at that area where the very high caliber weapon like the 50 caliber is going to be fired at that specific area. They're supposed to raise red flags up on each side, up in the high cliff. Okay, and they might have some buoys out there also, a floating buoys that's anchored to the bottom on each side of the offshore, outside of the reef, all the way up to the limit of the danger zone, because during the time of the firing range, although they're not going to be shooting out directly into the ocean, they're going to be shooting into a berm up at the firing range itself.
Oh yeah.
But in case the projectile hits a rock, for example, and it ricochets, it might go over and land in that offshore danger zone.
Mm-hmm.
That's why they have to close that off to all boats while the firing range is in use. That's the plan. It's not going to be closed off permanently to any boats or any fishing, only during the range is in use. And they're supposed to be announcing it prior to opening the range for use. And they're also going to be putting up some signaling devices to signal people that the firing range is in use to stay away from,
Yes.
So they're not going to be shooting directly into the water.
No, it's a safety zone to make sure that people who might be out there won't get hit by an errant round.
Yeah.
It's safety. Yes. So it's not like they're shooting out there. But they also said...
They might be shooting lead into the water.
Well, but the thing is that it said also that once they put this firing range in, they don't know how often or when it will be used. Day or night, how busy. That was another part that they put in. That's the very end of the article. Let me see if it says the proposal doesn't state how often the range will be in use. And before that, the proposal does say, quote, when the range is not in use, the danger zone shall be open to normal maritime traffic and all activities to include anchoring and loitering. Yes, of course. They're going to put this up.
They cannot announce that yet until the Marines actually get here, and it's up to their scheduling. And then that's when they announce how often they're going to be using the range.
And
it's
to
not
me,
going to be every day, Monday through Friday, obviously, but probably once or twice a week, you know.
once the range is established, it can be used at any time, day or night, scheduled whenever, at their own convenience. And I'm not arguing the point, because we have no idea how many Marines will actually be here, whether they will be rotated through here to train, and that the base will actually just kind of hold them while they're here and feed them, give them a place to get in out of the weather, or maybe the new hotel that they allowed the H2 workers to work on. Maybe that hotel's already under contract. We don't know, because why else would they go ahead and just blanket approve them for their workers to come in, the requested number of workers to come in and finish that hotel, based on the need. We have all these other hotels already on island, but that particular one, out of all the projects, is favored. It's out off the base, outside the fence, and it is favored by approval of their H2 applications, all of them. So I'm just trying to connect some of the dots here.
Yeah. Not just for the workers, for the actual construction of the base. But the Marines will have their own barracks inside the Finagayan area, and they're going to be permanently staying in barracks, and also the officers and enlisted men that have families, they're going to have a housing facility also in the base.
Yes.
So but what I'm saying is that they're not going to be using the fire range every day.
I'm going to bring this in next week. I'll have a bit of time, more time. I've been reading the 38th Commandant's strategic plan. I'm not sure that's the exact title of it, but I've been excerpting some of the things that he's saying that are going to indicate to me, and maybe to you too, what the change of the plan could be for Guam. And I'll bring this in on another day. And it's not something that I'm not so much arguing it or objecting to it. It's just that we should know, we should be aware that not only are the Marines evolving, I mean, just as Guam is evolving, growing up, it's not the same objections that the Okinawa public had 15 years ago when they were getting all mad down at the legislature about this, all riled up. It's deliberate, and it's a systematic approach to all of the needs of the Marines. But what they're building now was something that was planned 10 years ago, 15, 20 years ago. And they're implementing it now. But the Commandant has changed his planning directives. Excuse me. And that is of concern. You see Andy South, all that land from the private properties along behind north of Dedido, all the way to the Jigo Fire Station, and the road that goes through that Kin Perez was complaining about, that there's all that federal land between Marine Drive and Route 15 from Laddie Estates and the the road coming out of Dedido going up to Manila. From there all the way up into Jigo. That land's going to be used for training. It was proposed to use Paget, but that was stopped because of local objections, and now those ranges are being built at Northwest Field and Finagadzan, those very same training ranges. And so they have a plan, and we will, in the not too distant future, be witnessing the movement of men and equipment, and hearing and seeing the activity right there adjacent to our own homes and whatnot. So let me go to this break. Did you want to hang on, Tom, or?
I'll hang on.
Okay, hang on. Let's go to a break. Real Joe, we have our seventh inning stretch, and the phone here is buzzing. The phone in the studio. Take it away, Joe.
65 years ago, Bank Pacific opened its doors to our community. As we celebrate, we offer you a special 65th anniversary personal loan rate for as low as 4.65%. For travel, back to school, a wedding, do whatever you want with the money. We just want to give it to you for as low as 4.65% APR. It's our birthday present to you.
Bank Pacific, where others put branches, we place roots.
Equal opportunity lender, member FDIC, conditions apply.
Everybody's heard about the bird. The bird, bird, bird.
Circle K has a 3-pound rotisserie chicken, now available for the introductory price of $9.99. It's the biggest, tastiest, and most affordable rotisserie chicken of its kind on island. Save even more by getting a family meal with 2 sides and a bottle of wine for only $25.99. The Circle K rotisserie chicken. Get yours today. Circle K. Take it easy.
Tall Tales with Bob Klitzkie is brought to you by Mezcla Chamorro Fusion Bistro, inviting you to try their garlic roasted Dungeness crab, featuring 2 pounds of Dungeness crab, marinated with a secret garlic sauce, and served with special chow mein noodles. Visit Mezcla in Hagåtña and now in Tumon at the Grand Plaza Hotel. For reservations, please call 969-2652.
Welcome back to Tall Tales. Sitting next to me in the bleachers here at Memorial Stadium is Tom. Tom, welcome back to Tall Tales.
I'll just make this short because I think you got some calls coming in, right?
I hope so. 888-8255.
Yep. Anyway, I'm pretty sure that we are going to benefit from this Marines getting here also is because I know that they're going to help us to improve Marine Corps Drive because a lot of the ships that's going to be constantly supplying the base with their regular load of ammo and all that and their supply is all going to be coming in through ship down there at Naval Station, right? So they're going to be using Marine Corps Drive for a lot of their transportation needs. So I know that they're going to be helping Gulf Guam with the improvement of Marine Corps Drive. And because the Air Force cannot transport all of their needs by themselves, so the Navy is going to have to be involved with the supply of the 5,000 Marines. So I know that they're going to be helping Gulf Guam when it comes to the highway.
Oh, yeah, it's already happened. Remember when they rebuilt the bridge over the Agana River?
Yeah.
Remember that? Yeah, that was because we have to be sure that we can move the equipment, like 60-ton tanks, across that bridge, and that bridge was built back in 1945, early 1945. I have a picture, an aerial photo of that bridge under construction, and it's amazing. They had a temporary road going around it, a temporary bridge. But
and who knows, they might go ahead with that first idea that they had before about having a freeway up in the hills there, through Zonia, through the Cross Island Road, etc., etc., all the way up to Anderson.
There is already a right of way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They might go through that, so that's going to be an improvement for us too. We could be, the civilians will be using that road too, not just them.
Well, maybe not. Let's, a lot of benefits have been discussed over the years, and we're not seeing them unfold as quickly as we were led to at the beginning of this whole process. But some of the money is actually going up to Tinian because they realize that it's easy to knock out one spot if you have all your marbles in one basket, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so they're spreading this stuff out, and that is to our advantage. Even if we lose $100 million, or a couple $100 million a year going to another location, it's all right because that means that we're not the only target in town. Tom, thank you for your call. I got a caller on line.
We got to remember that we are going to benefit a lot from the Marines getting here. Just as a minimum, the increase of Section 30 money. Not to mention the patronage that they're going to be patronizing the businesses downtown.
Well, that is for sure, but no, Section 30 monies may not, because if they're not here for more than 180 days, if they're rotated out, and they come here for training and they're home ported somewhere else, we don't get any Section 30 money.
Well, why else would they be constructing the barracks for they're not going to be here permanently?
The barracks, people come and go in barracks. It's the family homes. It's the administrative offices. They will stay put. But the firing ranges, the equipment, the forward positioning and stockpiling of equipment, the contingent base, it could be that they're just going to rotate people through from Hawaii or the States, just like the planes up at Anderson. There's no guarantee that they're going to be basing people here. There's no guarantee of that. That's not up to us. That's up to them. Let me take this. Thank you very much for the call, Tom. And let's go on to line 2. Welcome, Bob. I see you're here on the phone. Welcome to Tall Tales.
Hi, Daryl. Hey, I just want to give you kudos because you're a very good mediator. You balance things out, and we like that.
Well, I just want, I don't have all the answers. I think that if you put a good, 20 or 30 of us in a room from whatever, random walk of life, gather people up at the mall and put 20 or 30 people together, we probably would have the problems of the island pretty well scoped out and have an idea of which direction we want to go in.
Yeah, well, I just wanted to call in shortly and keep this conversation short. I was one of the guys that wrote most of these plans for the lead fire range and the urban assault.
Mm-hmm.
And
well, that's one way to earn a salary.
And I know all the details.
Mm-hmm.
And we're not harming anything. But if we can get the locals to, if we can come to a balance on this, we're not harming anything. We're actually helping.
Well, let me ask you, I don't want to, don't reveal anything you can't, but the way that ranges used to be built, we created these like wastelands that the only way that they could be restored was through Superfund money. And so is that sort of like still the style, or are they using different kinds of charges and heads to make them easier to recover, or is it going to be just the same as Kahulawi or Viquez? Is it?
Yeah.
Yeah, is it going to be another one of those? Is that what we're doing to the island?
No, it's not going to be anything like Kahulawi, because that's a tear down. This is a build-up.
Right, but is the construction of a range, in the construction of a range, have the standards changed from when they did that to now?
Well, let me give this to your followers. We are under strict EPA regulations. We have to conform to every single regulation that there is, and you've got high-ranking officers that have to sign off on this stuff. So we're conforming to every rule that has to be done.
I have been saying this since I've been, had this chair and the 2 hours a day to make sure there's no dead air on this microphone and on this radio station, that it's not what people say, it's whether the plans and specifications and implementation follow applicable federal policy, because the Department of Defense is subject to the policies of the nation as exist everywhere. And
right.
that is
Absolutely. And, we have to follow federal, we have to follow EPA, we have to follow local. We go through craziness to get these reports done or these plans done. And they're very specific. So if people think that we're just, going crazy and saying, oh, we're going to put up a shooting range here and there, well, that's just silly.
Well, it's unfortunate that much of the local concern is born of the way that the military has treated the civilian community over previous generations. And, we have to get past this at some point. We have to get beyond it. But it's not really within the mission of the military to answer for the problems of the past. You have a mission, which is your current mission, and you have your task, your assignment, and it's your current assignment, and you're not necessarily supposed to be in civil affairs or trying to patch things up with people or be nice or smooth down bruised egos. So I recognize how difficult it is, but many people do not. You have a job to do and you got to do it. So I understand, and I'm on your side with
really
this.
Speak to that. That's getting pretty deep.
That's right.
Going the local issue, the community issue, and everything else. All I'm saying is, when the government's doing stuff like this, and I'm writing the plans for them, we're doing the right thing. We're following all the rules, and how they're perceived is the people's choice.
Yeah, and I'm agreeing with you. That's not within your scope of responsibility. That is not you don't have to be concerned with being nice. You have to be concerned with being compliant. And so, and that's something that people need to hear. Locally, we need to be understanding this, that if you've got a problem with it, address it's with what you're looking at, not with, righting past wrongs. Let's get on.
We don't need complaints. We need, if they have a complaint, they bring it up with their
congressman. Yeah.
Push it up. Push it up.
Yeah. Well, thank you, Bob. I appreciate your call. Please do call again sometime.
Oh, I'm leaving off island. So.
Oh, well, I hope you enjoyed your time here on Guam.
14 months. Thank you very much.
Yes, thank you, and have good travels, safe travels. And that was Bob. I've got Keith on line 1. Welcome to Tall Tales, Keith.
Hello. I wanted to follow up on the previous caller. I happen to be in the business of cleaning up Superfund sites, and specifically in recent years, former ranges. And I can tell you that the ranges that we are cleaning up, the historical problem areas, they really may have been designed from the perspective of use, a military usage, target act, surface danger zones, that sort of thing.
Yeah.
But they were designed really before most of the regulations were put in place. These are ranges that were designed anywhere from the 50s to the 70s. The ranges that are being constructed today, there are, as the former or previous caller had indicated, plenty of regulations, guidance, guidelines put out not only by the feds but the states. There's an association of states that essentially get together to discuss military matters, because some military issues, environmental issues, policy issues, what have you, affect a lot of different bases in a lot of different states. So, the states sometimes pull together and discuss things as a group. And they have, it's called ATFDR. Oh, not ATFDR, sorry, SWOMO. They've put out a guidance on how to construct a range. And all of these new guidances and regulations have significant input on how to design them to be green, or as green as you can be for a range, and ecologically friendly. And they include all sorts of ways to how to best recapture and recycle the lead from the soil, prevent it from migrating off-site, so that it can be a little bit more of a self-contained system. So what we're doing, what's being done today in terms of new range construction is nothing like the way it used to be done.
Oh, thank you for that. I think the previous caller, he's involved in the design, but he's not necessarily responsible for explaining how it was done before. And for you, from your experience, because you're dealing with old sites and you're also, because you're in the field, you'd be up on what's happening with new sites and the decision-making process on how to design and be compliant. You bring a different perspective to this discussion. And it's too bad that this information doesn't come out. We just hear about, WAP. Here's the plan. Comment by October 16th. And then people pick it up and read it and go, wow, is this what's going on? And without a wider context. And that's something that I think our local leaders should be involved in, which is public education on how to frame this.
Possibly agree more. The evidence. Listen to me. The information is out there. It is freely available. And if there are concerned citizens, politicians, active groups, what have you, just do a little bit of homework on range design and the requirements put forth by the states, EPA, even Department of Defense itself.
Mm-hmm.
There are all sorts, it'll tell you all of the restrictions, requirements, new design requirements. It really will, I think, put a lot of people at ease.
Well, thank you.
We're not doing what we did before.
This is why we have talk radio. Thank you so much for calling in, and I welcome you to call in again sometime.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Mm-hmm. Bye-bye. And that's Keith providing his perspective on Tall Tales here. Let's take a break and come back for the final go-round here on Tall Tales.
We understand what matters to you because at Docomo Pacific, we're a family too. With the Now Family program, Mom, Dad, and kids stay connected on the latest devices the whole family can enjoy. For just $155 a month, get 3 lines with 30 gigs of 4G LTE data each, and endless use of your favorite apps without affecting your monthly data bucket. Add more, get more, save more. Docomo Pacific, better together. Some conditions apply.
Mia. Presented by World Theater Productions, featuring international guest artists, YouTube sensation AJ Raphael.
Half a day, this is AJ Raphael.
And Dee Dee Magno Hall from Steven Universe.
Half a day, this is Dee Dee Magno Hall.
Come and see us at the UOG Calvo Fieldhouse on September 6, 7, and 8.
Get your tickets now at WTPGuam.com. Enhance the theater experience.
Tickets are also available at GNC and 76 Circle K.
And yes, we're on our last go-round before the 3-day weekend. I won't be here on on Monday afternoon. I won't be here until Tuesday afternoon because it's Labor Day and nobody works on Labor Day. I'll be down in Agana for the march for Nogi. I'm looking at this. Andrew Camacho says, the time it grows late. The discussion's been great. Soon we'll hear adieu from the host. A bugle note sound through the air will resound, a clarion call to the post. Thank you, Andrew. I needed that. So, not to change the subject, welcome, Catherine, to the discussion. But let me run these through again, and maybe I'll get somebody will call up and say, I vote for this one. I have 8 possible signs I can carry, and maybe I'll put 2 or 3 of them together. And here are the possibles. Late does not equal the mathematical symbol. Late does not equal never. It's about dignity. Dignity and respect. People of the land expressing their preference on the future of the land. Don't be afraid of democracy. Just another exercise of democracy. Democracy, not colonial fiat. And the 8th one is, what are you afraid of? So, anyway, anybody want to vote? You can vote online on Facebook Live, or you can call me right now at 888-8255 and let me know what your favorite one. You can ask me about it too. I want to thank those 2 callers. 2 callers, one involved in the design of the ranges that are being proposed and built to support the Marines that will be stationed here, to keep their chops up, to do the things that we ask them to do, and make sure that they're ready to go. And another person calling in to say, I'm familiar with cleanups. And the standards that were used in the past have no relation to the standards that are being applied now, and that they not only follow, the planners not only follow federal guidelines, but also EPA guidelines and local guidelines as expressed by duly enacted policy. And that people need to understand that. So maybe the pressure point is not on the specific project. It may be at the legislature, instead of creating phantom accounts, take a look at the standards, whether we can make policy on the appropriate standards where there might be shortcomings, or they might have overlooked it because they're not making standards for an island. They're making standards for a nation. And so maybe we have some specific standards that we would like to see in place. And it may be that if those standards were in place, then they would be reflected in the plans. This is the kind of thing. We need to be more involved. And we shouldn't let our elected officials kind of get away with not doing the hard work. How much is the legislature's budget each year? $8 million? Ask yourself, are you getting $8 million worth of product out of them so far this year? Does it sound like a good deal to you? You know, think about it. Are we getting our money's worth? I ask the question because clearly I don't think we are. But you come up with your own, and then next time you see one of your favorite elected officials, you know, express yourself, politely, respectfully, but let them know what you think. Are they doing what we elected them to do? When you cast your ballot for that person, for that candidate, is that candidate satisfying you? Never mind all the campaigning going on. Well, coming up on a 3-day weekend, let's go to that again. The time it grows late. The discussion's been great. Soon we'll hear an adieu from the host. A bugle note's sound through the air will resound, a clarion call to the post. We've had that clarion call. But for those of you who are getting ready to go, don't forget the Finogi March down on Monday morning. Yeah, It might be the one day in the year that you want to sleep in, but it might be time to stand up. Not that you have to, be an activist or an advocate for one or another result. You don't have to go down there to campaign. But if you ever want to get off the dime, it may be time to get out of bed and roll on down to Agana and walk along and see your friends, and then afterwards go to brunch. Right? I hope to see you there. You know what I look like because of Facebook Live. I'm Daryl Taggarty, sitting in for the vacationing and otherwise Bob Klitzkie. I'll be back on Tuesday afternoon. But if you see me on Monday morning, come on up and say hi. And the rest of you, if you're not involved, be thinking about it when you wake up on Monday morning. How involved you might be, or how this impacts you. Have a good weekend, everybody. Happy Labor Day.
The Point is KUSG, Hagåtña, Guam.